and your eyes. They speak of your struggles, but your strength I glorify, yeah. But I don't mean that every race I don't appreciate, but in my heart, man, come on, you hold a special place, yeah. I love you, I can never hate, and that is why I sing. And you be young queen, man, you be young queen. Your beauty been taken, your love so amazing.
Close the door behind you. You're now in the green room.
Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Green Room. My name is Keddy Emmanuel, and I am on the call today with Allain. This time I'm getting it right. I spoke to Alpha on an episode on another platform. Today we're happy to have him in Caribbean Cadences, The Green Room. Alpha, can you tell the people hello? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man, Saudi. And if you don't know what that means, it means what you say. It's a greeting, you know. So big up to everybody locked in one time. I am Arthur Allain. I'm a musician, entrepreneur, CEO of Major Records, lead vocalist of the band Evolution. I'm also a school teacher. And yeah, I've been doing music for the last, professionally for, I think this year will be 14 years since I joined a live band and, you know, been doing my thing. But of course, I started from way back, you know, primary, secondary school, more secondary school, kind of Form 1, when I probably wrote my first song, you know, and ever since then, it's just been a journey. You know, I happen to be a 5-time Groovy Monarch for St. Lucia, and, you know, like most of my training is soca, but I didn't start as a soca artist, pretty much, you know, just loving music on the whole, hip-hop, R&B, and then, you know, given the way the Caribbean is, and soca is what most connects with the people, you know, I found success with that. Also, to the band that I first joined, they were already established. They were a very established act in the soca arena, so I kind of got thrown right into, you know, the height of performance in St. Lucia when I entered the game. So yeah, I had a harsh start, but I picked up eventually, found my wings, and here I am today, you know.
All right, man. Thank you so much for that introduction, man. And what I definitely want to do is I really want to break that down. I want to break that down for myself. I want to break that down for the viewers and listeners, because I'm a fan. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a fan. I really admire your work, man. I think probably the first song of yours, or your first performance that I saw was the Praise God for the hell and the West.
2015.
Yeah. So ever since then, man, I've been like, all right, you know, this guy's doing his thing. I'm glad to have you on the episode. So you started out saying that your first song you wrote in Form 1.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for that?
I think it was a project, a school project for social studies. It was a project on religion, types of religion in the Caribbean, and to make the presentation interesting, I took a Sean Paul song. I think it was I can't remember what was it. A Sean Paul song, and I redid the words with the same melody, same beat, and just did my thing on it. And from there on, my school teacher, Mr. Favre, big up to him. I always have to shout him out for actually giving me the motivation, in a sense, to actually look at music as something that I would eventually want to do, you know. And got into the school choir, got into playing the recorder band. Eventually, I led the recorder band when he himself didn't really have the knack to do it anymore. I took over and we started arranging like modern songs on the recorder, you know, because most people hated the recorder at school. But I still love the instrument, and I'll just take it up and play any song. And, you know, some of my partners, we formed a group called the Junior Crew, and we would record ourselves. And back then it was like, figure used to use Roxio Music Creator, and we would play this song on the speakers, but record onto the computer mic. Why is this song is played on a set? We would sing over it and record ourselves one take, you know, and create our own tunes. Eventually we discovered Fruity Loops, and, you know, we got a little better. And then eventually this producer guy linked me up, was like, yo, bro, I like the vibes, but you could add some plugins on there. Put like what's plugins, you find about reverb and a little delay, a little auto tune to make sure things sounded nice. And yeah, and from there we started creating music. So we started in school, and that kind of led to me being in Matrix, because Matrix band was a big band in St. Lucia, and they came from my hometown, Soufre, and they would also always perform at the school whenever there were major events. So, and I would perform with my partners at the school too. So they saw me and they realized that man have a vibe, because I also lived in the area where they rehearsed too. So I'd always hang around the crew and be there and try to get a little involved, sing loud so they could hear I have a little thing to, get myself noticed. And eventually I remember Kushande, a reggae artist from Vency. He has a Luciano kind of tone. He was doing he was headlining Soufre Jazz, and he heard me singing around in by the street, by the band hall, and he was like, "What do you think about coming to do backup vocals for me?" Because he didn't have a backup vocalist. And yeah, I got with the fellas. I was also on the show as a solo artist, but I came back later on to do backups. And then thereafter, the guys asked me, you know what, the vocalist had left the band, and they needed somebody to fill the gap. And as an inexperienced, I think I was probably 16 or 17 at the time. Yeah, I was just thrown into the spotlight, and that was it.
Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes when people are thrown into a new territory or thrown into a situation like that, it's very challenging to rise to the occasion and to be yourself artistically and really let your talent shine in that moment. What helped you push through with the nerves in that moment and shine there?
Well, a few things helped, because I had also been in debate competitions. I was a public speaker already, and I was also part of the drama group. I eventually started to create plays myself, and that was a big part of it for me. And that kind of helped me, because I grew up being the shy guy in a sense. I was very reserved. Most of my siblings too were very reserved, and that was me. So the stage was almost like an escape to really break out of that shell. And I'll be very honest, when I started off, it was real rough. I remember my first major show in Castries in the north, and even being from the south of the island, I never really used to travel much to the north. I didn't really know, people didn't know me until I went to college up here. When I say college, I mean Sahafa. Most of all my secondary life was down south. So being the country guy, not really knowing the surroundings and everything, it was not a shock in a sense, but a different environment. And I remember my first show, literally nobody was vibing. They were like, "Boy, who's mate? What mate doing there? Mate can't perform." I was doing my thing, winding all around the stage, jumping up and down, but I didn't understand, the true essence of performance. And I remember that day, Ricky T, I always give that story, but Ricky T was standing up backstage, and he had just bust with Pressure Boom. And trying all different songs, nothing taken. So I was like, you know what, Pressure Boom must stick, boy. And so I tell the guys, run the tune. So then I came on, did the song, and I'm trying, boy, give me the pressure rags. Hey, nah, boy, nobody here putting up their hand. It's like, who's met? Nothing, no response. And then Ricky T now decided, hey, you're gonna come on stage and save the show. So he came on, took my rag. He was like, yo, my youth, let me show you how it's done. And he told the crowd, show me the pressure rags. And whoa, a whole sea of hands. I didn't even know so many people were inside the place, man. The place was rampacked, and hands went up like his. And he did his thing, mash up. Afterwards, the fellas come to me in the bus, it was like, boy, pressure. Like, and at that time, honestly, I felt belittled in a sense. I felt like I was nothing. I actually shed tears that night. But it was actually the day I decided, that I have to do better. And I had to realize that I didn't have what it takes at the time. So I had to go improve on my skill. YouTube was just starting to pop at that time. So I'd go on YouTube, look for videos of any performances I could get, study Marshall tape, study Michael Jackson, Usher, those artists that have influenced me along the way. And that pretty much helped me a lot. And pretty much just doing it over and over, because, working in the hotel scene, I use it as a training ground really to better myself each time. And that would help me to become a better performer.
Right. And listen, man, that's an admirable story. Before we hop too far out, I want to ask a little bit about your teacher. You mentioned Mr. Favrier. Is that Brent Favrier?
No, no, that's Christopher Favrier.
Okay, Christopher
He's
Favrier.
retired now.
All right. Yeah, man. Whenever we get the opportunity to give a shout out, I want to make sure that we get the full name out there.
Yeah,
So we show appreciation to the ones who went before us. So definitely shout out to Christopher Favrier. Was that at the Soufre secondary school?
Comprehensive. Yeah, Soufre Comprehensive secondary school. Yeah, man.
All
We
right.
only had music for 2 years, but that was really the starting. That was all I needed really to get me involved into music. Because my family, I don't come from I wouldn't say a musical family. My daddy, he has done compositions before. He's recorded his own music before too, but he kind of influenced me a lot too because he would play. He has a sound system up to this day. He still had his never really go out to play, but like in the yard, he would play music every weekend, hard music. We had a pastor living behind our home. Problems, problems on a Saturday there, because he would be blasting his reggae non-stop and that. Just hearing all those legendary tunes. I grew up loving Maxi Priest and Luciano and guys like Bob Marley. So that kind of stuck with me, and I guess that's where the music kind of took front. My mother can't sing for nothing.
Yeah, but you mentioned, and I just want to make some space for that as well. You mentioned that there are some artists that you have been, studying and looking up to. You mentioned names like Usher. I think you mentioned Machel Montano.
Yeah.
Who else would you say you?
Different. I have different. One thing I plan myself on is being as versatile as possible. So I like to look at different artists. I don't have a favorite artist or a favorite genre per se, but I look at guys like Usher. Bruno Mars is one of my favorite performers. His ability to actually sing live and so incredibly and play different instruments, top of the line. Guys like when it comes to reggae, I look to guys like Buju Banton, Barry Salmon, one of my favorite as well, a great performer up to this day. Guys like Maxi Priest, like I said, in the R&B field, Usher, Brian McKnight happens to be another one of my favorites. Boy, I wish I can ever play piano like them fellas, but I haven't dedicated myself because that's not my forte, so
Right.
performance, I look to them for like performance tips and how to really get a crowd engaged, and that and even my music too, in a sense, take little, I don't copy them, but take a little something from everybody else. I'd watch an old 96 Marshall and see how he would handle the crowd without samples or anything running else, and just see how you command the stage. And these things I learn from them, man. I learn from the greats.
Yeah, and people, I want to really point out how much performance in and of itself is an art form. It's something to be studied and something to be mastered, which it sounds like what you've been doing. It sounds like that's what you've been working on, and I dare say that you've come a very long way, even if I wasn't there at the beginning.
No, just me. I have because when I look back, at some of the tapes from say 5 years ago, there's so much I critic myself very much and see, okay, well, how can I better? And even at the Soca Monarch level, like if you go back and look at those 7 years that I was in competition, the performances are not very different, but they're just an improvement on the year before. So like I'll look back at the previous year and say, boy, how can I fix that up? And come back again, and sometimes do the exact same thing, but just add another layer to it, an element of surprise. And because if I find something works, I keep doing it until I feel that I have exhausted using it and get something new. So you have to think of different gimmicks and different ways in which that you can keep people engaged.
If you don't mind me asking, what is one thing that stands out to you that really shifted your performance, you really brought it up a level, that you mastered, you identified and then changed, and you saw a huge response due to that change?
The biggest thing is being myself. I think authenticity is what really sells an artist. A lot of times we try to do what other artists do, or we just try things, and it's not really part of our nature. And you have to kind of let your personality shine through. The easier it is, like it's like talking to your friends, or you having a conversation with somebody. when I talk to my audience, it's like having a conversation. So it does, I don't stick, it flows naturally. It doesn't seem like I'm forcing, they feel like they're part of the performance as well. And, in the hotels too is where I kind of really mastered that, especially when you have a more intimate audience, if you can get them to do certain things and react to you in certain ways, then you see, okay, how can I translate that to the big stage? And then when you get the big stage now, you just pretend like it's that small audience again, and when they feel that impact and they feel that connection, when they see just a group of people reacting to you, the rest of them will want to get in on it as well too, so
Right. The energy is contagious, right?
yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, man. And listen, that word you just mentioned there, I think is a big, big, big deal. Authenticity.
Yeah, man.
It sounds easy. It sounds like the most natural thing, because really and truly it is, because it's who you are.
Wow,
But
yeah.
very often you find that artists feel like, okay, let me try and sound like this person that I really admire. Let me try and fit this mold that I think is cool. And yeah, it's not.
Sometimes it may work for you, it may, but but being yourself, being authentic, people connect to that on a much deeper level than trying to be somebody else. And you see sometimes you see a weird artist and be like, but why not connecting? But it's just because they being themselves and just doing what they're doing, and I learned that from other guys I see here, like, and even Ricky T too. Ricky T, when you see Ricky T on stage, you can see he's just naturally being him. Guys like Derek, that I watch perform and I like, yeah, man. I can see them Onion from Burning Flames. You can tell that they just being themselves on stage and just enjoying the vibe and just letting the music be. Not forcing it. The more you force it and you seem rehearsed, it just doesn't connect.
Yeah. People don't like anything that is inauthentic. It's boring. It doesn't feel good.
For sure.
You don't really want to be a part of it. So I want to shift gears a little bit and turn us to a little conversation about your production. I know you gave a little bit in terms of the background in production, but also the instrumentation end. At the back of you there, I see an acoustic, I see an electric guitar, bass. What do you play, and how long have you been playing? Is your playing really to supplement your vocal performance, or what's the story there?
I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I tell you straight, I am no top guitarist, I am no top bassman, I can barely play the piano. I can just do a little something, and it's helped me a lot, musically, arrangement wise, production wise, just the basic knowledge. I've always said over the years, to better myself, and I've gotten better. Like, for example, I play rhythm guitar with my band, and since our lead guitarist Dwight Florent, he plays for Morgan Heritage. When he left to play with Morgan, I kind of had to take over with the guitar just to feel it in the reggae, and over time I've gotten better with my strum. It might seem that check might seem a little easy, but trust me, to hold it.
Listen, let me tell you, man, because my whole background is bass. I've been playing bass for nice. Like ever since I started playing, and about a year or so ago I started playing guitar. And the strumming is what I really have to have to fight with, because it's a different motion. For bassist, you used to pluck in.
Right. I can find my way around the bass to see, but I know I go say let me go in a band and play bass. So go. nah. But it really helps too. Like, it just in terms of melodies and creating ideas. To have that foundation. It's super important, and for my production as well, I during the pandemic too, I decided to produce reggae rhythms, and because I've always loved reggae, but never had much of an opportunity to do it because soca just kind of took front in there, and I was like, you know what, it's nothing that I can't do, so let me sit down, and it became almost natural to me because I'll put down my own guitar parts, easy to strum the piano for reggae, and just fit it around with everything else, and I mean, I've been in production for a while because I also have a jingle company, so I do jingles for these simple commercials for companies, and so the more I do it, the better I get at it. And for me, like I have never thought of being a producer, but
Mhm.
I like to produce every now and then.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that you started out in Fruity Loops. Have you migrated
Yeah.
to?
I went from Fruity Loops. I touched Cubase for a little while, and now I'm pretty much into Logic. That's what I use, Logic all the time. But now I actually just bought an Apollo Twin, but I made the biggest error. And please, musicians, don't ever make that error again. I use Mac, and I happen to have bought the Windows version. Apparently, UAD made a Windows version, and it doesn't work. There's no drivers for Mac, so I spent 900 US on this thing.
Oh, jeez.
It doesn't work. But I had to download. I had to create a partition on my hard drive, and I put in Windows. I got it to work on there, but I like my Logic, so I'm selling it to get the Firewire version for it.
Yo, yeah. I mean, I feel the pain there.
Boy, I'm telling you, 900 US easy money, in the pandemic time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You don't even need to tell me, man.
Yeah, but stupid mistake.
Yeah, you have to do what you have to do. So, from what you said, it sounds like Logic is home. It sounds like Logic is what you enjoy
Yeah,
the
man, for
most.
sure.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the jingle company. I don't know that a lot of musicians on the line might be aware of jingles and how that works and
Yeah,
how
man, that
that market runs.
that is a big avenue to make money. For me, I'm fortunate enough to be able to actually produce the jingles, mix and master the jingles, record them, and I'm also a writer. So I'm a one-man band in a sense. So if a client reaches out to me, I can just do everything without having to outsource. And now with the advent of things like Fiverr, you can actually go on there and become a merchant and sell jingles for people around the world. But it's something that growing up, I used to love commercials. I would learn commercials when I see them on TV. In no time, I would sing them. I'd like to make my own in my head. And to be honest, one day in 2015, thereabout, I just decided, I said to the universe, listen, I want to create jingles. And no lie, I went to my manager and my keyboardist at the time. I was like, Mr. Let's form a jingle company. And they were like, if you about it, okay, yeah, we can do it. But I just said I want to do that.
Right.
The following week, a company who does jingles called me and asked me to produce a jingle for the National Lottery. I had not told anybody I'm doing jingles, nothing like that. I just said that I want to do this, and bam. 1 week later, it was a Friday. The next Friday, they called me. And funny enough, when they called me, they asked me to submit a pitch, and I sent an example of a demo of the jingle, and they didn't take it. They didn't take it. They actually went to my brethren Libo, rest in peace to Libo, to give him the job. And guess what happened? Libo called me to voice the jingle. So I still ended up doing the jingle anyway. And that was the first time I had done one. And thereafter, like, I just started getting jobs for it. And when he passed in a couple of years ago, the door just opened for me, and more companies just started to reach out to me. When I did a Banker St. Lucia one, that got very popular, and thereafter, that's what pretty much held me very stable during the pandemic whilst I wasn't performing. So it's a great stream of revenue. And I mean, if you're a musician and you can create, that trust me, that's something we can all tap into. And you don't have to say the market's saturated or something. With the advent of Fiverr, you can be doing things for the world.
Yeah. And right there, I want to just point out something that I think is extremely important when it comes to new things. A lot of people who may be hearing about jingles for the very first time on this episode, I want to encourage you to try something new. It might be a little scary. Yeah, but try it out.
In whatever field you're in, whether it be sports or music, art, dance, whatever it is, diversification is the best thing you can do to create a stable platform for yourself. Because even the way that when COVID hit and so many people stopped performing, you have to look at different avenues within the business of music that you can actually tap into to create income for yourself. I wear my merch right now, but my merchandise,
right,
that can sell for me anytime. And so that I use my brand, translate it into money. The jingles is another one, using yourself as a brand to actually do other things like endorse through endorsements, all these different things like that. There's so much you can tap into. Your streaming, voiceover,
Right.
I mean, you can maybe management, writing for other people. All these are different ways to make money other than just your one thing that you're doing. So
Yeah.
always branch out as much as you can.
Yeah, man. I was reading somewhere. I think I was listening to a podcast or something where the guys were saying that any good business has about 5 streams of income.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, and so I think as a musician, as a business, you should have at least
For sure.
5 distinct streams of income. But that makes me want to transition a little bit into a little bit of talk about the pandemic, because you mentioned that especially during this pandemic, being as diversified in your work has really helped you. So, listen, man, I was on Facebook, I've been on social media, and I hear the cries of some of the musicians in the region. People saying, boy, it's best I just sell my bass, sell my guitar, sell my keyboard, because they have no gigs, they have nothing again.
Right.
Um, what encouragement would you give to the guys on the ground?
Well, like I said before, man, diversify. If it means having to step out just out of music for a little bit to check yourself, and because bills have to be paid at the end of the day. And
Yeah,
if your primary stream of income was through performing, then okay, think of what else can I do to bring in some money. If it's to pick up a camera and start taking pictures, if it's to go do construction for a little bit, but don't forget the music entirely, of course.
right,
Still be doing your thing. And if there's ways you can diversify within music as well, for example, like I said, writing to other people, because not everybody is suffering. So there are people who still looking to do things and to spend money on. So whether it be selling something, selling your work to people as well. That's things you can tap into, and you have to get creative. We are creative, so we can't stifle ourselves.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember the first couple of months it was tough on me, mentally, just thinking about, okay, boy, what am I gonna do now? All my gigs have been canceled. I had gigs coming in for Canada, UK that were just out the way. But okay, what can I do now? Think of those things. So what are my other skills?
yeah,
You have to be strong, because trust me, it's easy. And boy, you gotta keep your head up
right,
and tell yourself, okay, what can I do? What else can I do apart from playing my bass and sing or in a band or something? Because that's the first of it, but there'll be many other times you never know what can happen. So as much as you have your plan A, still have a plan B, C, D, E that you're not focused on, but you can see it as a viable option. And just go for the next one when one fails until you can go back to it again. I had to go back and teach. I didn't think I would ever be a teacher again, because I thought for what 7, 8 years. Honestly, when I left, I said I was not coming back to it ever, because I found a way to make it happen for me. But
right,
I just decided, I got called, one school called me, another school called me, I turned it down. When the third school called, I said, you know what? That is a sign. Just take it for now,
yeah,
keep the stability going. But I'm still, I'm back to 4 nights in the hotel, and I feel good about that.
yeah,
And
right,
when you create a good reputation for yourself as well, you build relationships. People will reach out for you the first when the doors open again.
mhm,
So you treat people irie too. You be nice to people, and you do good, simple, and it will come back to you in the end.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's very, very timely advice, man. I honestly, my heart breaks for a lot of, because that's what this whole platform is. This whole platform is built for and by musicians in the Caribbean region. And I know there's a lot of people hurting right now. People have bills to
For
pay.
sure, for sure,
People
for
have
sure.
responsibilities. But it sounds encouraging to me that you said you're back to 4 nights in the hotel. Do you think that's an indication that things are opening back up?
It's still away. I go like, it's still somewhat trialing. I know a lot of guys who still trying desperately to get in, get their foot back into the door. I'm one of the fortunate ones. But at the same time, you just have to keep reaching out, man. And
Yeah.
and if that doesn't work,
Right.
stretch your feet somewhere else for the time being.
Right.
See where it goes. If you can, if it means doing a job that you don't like to do for a little while, the benefits of that might be, for maybe someone who has never worked in a normal job, you might learn work ethic, I'm working with others, I'm building different skills that you probably didn't have, and those will help you in your music field as well. Because I find that creatives who have never worked into the 9 to 5 sort of tend to lack some of those skills that are needed as well in the music industry, which is kind of why our industry, especially in St. Lucia, isn't really an industry, because we lack some of the simple business etiquette and work etiquette that's necessary to push us forward. Because I can tell you straight, talent is a very small portion of successful anything,
Yeah.
that doesn't get you where you need to get. Because if you look at some of the biggest people in the industry, they're not that talented, but they have those other
Yeah.
skills to get them where they are. Like, I'm not a great
Right.
singer. I don't see myself as a phenomenal singer. I can hold my end, but I have understood my weakness. I'm working on it, and I understand my strengths as well. So you have to use those now to take you to the next level, So understand where you're good at and where you're not good at, and just use those on to capitalize on wherever you need to get, man.
Yeah, man, I think that is golden. I think that is golden because I think a lot of guys, maybe extremely skilled, extremely talented, and then show up very late to gigs.
Yeah,
Or you
exactly.
show up to the gig, you're
Exactly.
not prepared, you don't know the music,
Oh, man.
you or you're just a terrible person, you're always vexed.
Yeah.
Why you vexed? You
Yeah.
don't know. You just have bad energy.
Trust
And
me.
then or poor time management skills. You have five different gigs or five different requests for let's say a jingle, and you don't
Right.
have the professionalism to say, okay, I'm swamped on this in this area, I need this to do this and that. So there are a lot of very soft skills that people need to learn in addition to
Big time.
the performance, and in addition to playing or singing or whatever your talent might be. So I think
That's
that's,
that's the
yeah.
that's the difference between successful and unsuccessful persons. And those people who don't have those skills, they kind of tend to sulk and be like, but why that man getting everything, boy? Or, they'll be like, I better than that man, that's why I getting the work. That's
Yeah.
the kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to really take a step back and look at ourselves, evaluate, okay, where am I lacking? And that's a lot of what I did. I remember starting up in my career. I was like, boy, I used to be that kind of person. I would be bitter unto a sense and be like, why am I not getting there? It took 6 years of me doing music before I ever got like you said, first time you saw me perform was West Indian. That was
Yeah.
in 2015. From 2007, I was already
Right.
grinding, and not even professionally.
Yeah.
We're talking about my first song 2002.
Right.
So
Right.
all those years of trying and trying and trying. So eventually, when it got to West Indian, I realized so much of what I had to work on to better myself. And I'm still working. I'm still,
Right.
because I
Right.
still haven't had that impact on the original level that I want. So
Yeah.
I know I have to look at myself and say, boy, wow, what can I do now to tap into the rest of the world?
Yeah.
And that's the hardest conversation we can have with ourselves sometimes, and what I can do to be better.
Yeah. And I think
Every day you got to think of it.
absolutely, and unfortunately, many people don't. And I think
Yep.
that's the largest obstacle for many people, unfortunately.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. 'Cause you got to be humble and know, okay, I had the best. What can I do to be better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
Um,
everything.
so very quickly, before we wrap up, we're almost at the end of our time. But you spoke a little bit about the regional level there. I want to know if we could just dream for a minute, and we
Mhm.
could just paint the perfect picture of the Caribbean music industry in 20 years, and also the St. Lucian music industry in 20 years. What do you think that would look like?
Man, let's look at 50 Rihanna's. Rihanna is just proof of she's 1 in a million, but there can be so much more if we have that kind of backing and that sort of foundation. And I think we have quite a way to go. And like I said, we need to look at ourselves, what we need to do. First of all, the unity which we know is lacking, especially amongst creatives. Whenever you have egos involved, that's always a hard thing to do. I think if we can come together, even things like just being unionized or fighting for our causes, that can improve things on a whole nother level. And I think when we as Caribbean people understand the power of the creative industries is when we're going to really develop as an industry, because we understand, we know that we have talent, but the talent isn't being harnessed properly enough. It's not being packaged enough. It's not being marketed enough. Some people in the Caribbean have it, like Jamaica is doing well. I'm sure there's so much that they can improve on, but they have had very good success on the world level. Trinidad to a certain extent. There's so much room for improvement for all of us, really, as musicians, as creatives, in all forms of the arts, to really first understand the power that we have, and then now work on it to really make it into a viable industry that can sustain us in times like these, especially.
Right. Oh yeah, and I think that's very well said. In fact, while you mentioned it, though, I thought of taking the first statement a step further. From you said 50 Rihannas. So
Yeah.
I kind of imagine a Caribbean music industry in the next 20 years where Rihanna would not have to leave Barbados
Right.
to become as successful as she has become, right? As mainstream as she has become, because if I'm correct in Rihanna's story, she got connected with, I don't know, some producers in New York at some point. I want to say Jay-Z, but I'm not sure.
Right.
But yeah, so she got that New York connection. She was signed with a label up there, and then she dropped Mr. DJ something on her place, something on that first song, yeah, and blew up, right? But I'm also imagining, us dropping music right here in the Caribbean, reaching the world to the same scale that Rihanna has. And I think I could say that we have had artists who have done that.
Like Kevin Little turned me on. That was a big one too.
Right.
Yeah, so we need more of those Kevin Little turn me on situation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it can happen, once we create the material the world wants to hear to, so we have to work on what we produce as musicians, and satisfy the world, but still keep our authenticity as well. Because what Bob Marley did was to sell our culture through music. He sold Rastafarianism, he sold Jamaican culture. He was able to package that through his music. He sold the struggle of Black people, all these things. So he was able to resonate with people beyond Jamaica, beyond the Caribbean, in Africa, in London, in South Africa, places where apartheid and all these things. People were able to connect with his story and his culture and everything like that. So I think we need to analyze those success stories that we have had already, and how we can multiply those to many instances throughout the region.
Yeah, very well said, man. Before we wrap up, I'm going to open the door. Do you have any questions for the Caribbean Cadence platform? Anything that you think we should be doing more of? Any questions about what we're all about? Anything that you think the viewers or listeners should know more about?
Well, first of all, big up to the platform, first of all, for actually providing the platform, because I think that's one thing we really lack into, more platforms, to have engagement with artists as well, and share stories, but just keep doing what you're doing, man. And it started as Lucian musicians, and see how it's growing. So just keep at it and keep improving, more content, more reaching out more, and just keeping the ball rolling, man. Eventually can blow up into something bigger than you expected,
Right.
This is how it starts small, and then landmine, everything just
everything just blow up.
Yeah,
man. Thanks for that, for sure. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep building. In fact, folks, if you're watching this at this point, me and Eliezer, who's the first addition to the Caribbean Cadence team, we're talking about a sort of Caribbean collaboration series. So this is just the first tentative mention of that. Keep an eye out. Watch out for it. And after telling people a little bit about your brand, tell them about your merch, where they can find you. I'll be including links of that in the caption and description of this video, wherever you're watching this. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, man. Everywhere you can link me up after Allain758. That's my website.com. That's my IG as well, Instagram, Twitter, everything. Across the board. My music is available on all platforms. Go stream it. I just released a song. Link me in the DM. Just released 2 others as well for the year. So look out for my EP. That'll be coming soon. The Other Side Part 2. And just follow my vibe, man. You know, learn the story. Keep supporting. I like to support too. So of course, if you want to collaborate, hit me up in the DM. We can work on something. Let's keep unity and the positive vibe rolling. Much love, man. Straight.
All right. And the brand is Saudi.
Saudi, yeah, man. Good share, man. Big up. I'm looking to bring the store to the website as well. For now, it's not there, just available in St. Lucia. But we're working on taking it beyond because I got a lot of requests from people all over the US as well. So that's coming soon. So look out for that.
All right, folks, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out on for Alpha in the future. Follow his journey. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Green Room. We're trying to stay consistent every month on the 3rd week of the month. We're trying. All right, bear with us. All right. So, if that being said, bye for now.
What the Beatles mean to you and me. Restoring the pride. It's yours and it's mine. Let's do this together. Preserve for the future. Restoring the pride. It's yours and it's mine. Let's do this together. Preserve for the future. Yeah. Rise, rise, rise. Go Beatles, rise.